All right. Well, we're recording then.
All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Another wonderful way to kick off the day with 20 minutes of debugging.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I started to listen last time, and neither of us, I don't think, said each other's name.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Matt. I think that's how we used to do it. We always used to be like, "Morning, Matt," but last time was just like, "So where were we?" And we just never introduced ourselves. So all our poor confused fans out there just suffered through a whole episode without even knowing who we are.
Well, I'll work on this immense problem and be very careful in the future.
Yeah. So how's it going?
How is it going? I actually played games this week a little bit, but not too much, which is an
Well, it's not.
improvement over
It's
the
not.
previous.
It's not possible to game too much.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it is pretty dire these days, honestly.
Well, what were you playing?
Um, just flicking through games. I mean, my only real gaming these days is with the kids. And I know you seem pretty good at this, like having a game you play with your son, and then he's
Yeah.
excited about it, and then you arrange regular sessions or whatever. I don't really know exactly what you do, but my kids bore easy, and they either tire quickly of any kind of new game I throw in the mix, or they just want to keep going back to Untitled Goose Game. And so I mean, I know, like, I think you like that game, and I used to, but
I
after,
mean, yeah, it was fun the first time through.
yeah, I can't rat on it, like, in general, but it's definitely a game that, at least for me, replay value isn't quite as high as other games, and so, certainly on the whatever 20th playthrough, yeah, I'm kind of zoned out. But yeah, I don't know, just kind of clicking through my Steam collection. I was actually playing Gunpoint for the first time in what feels like years.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
played that a few years back. I liked
yeah,
that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I like that game. Kids got a chuckle out of it, so it was kind of neat. Yeah, nothing special. I'm playing E.V.O, which is
I don't know that one.
really, so it's a Super Nintendo game, and I like it. And back in the day, I really loved it. But I think it's one of those games that when you go back to, I anyway just see so many ways it could be done better. I think it was really like kind of the limitations of the time and that kind of thing. Um, really cool game. It's by Enix, or it's, I guess they were a publisher, not a developer, but um it's this game where you're these, I don't even know how you'd explain it. Basically, there's all these different eras, and you are an animal from that era, and then you have to evolve into the next era. And as you
Hmm.
play, it's like the instead of like an experience system where your whatever creature you're using just kind of grows, you choose how you evolve. And so it starts like you out as this fish, and you have to choose like how to, like, if you want to evolve a bigger tail, if you want to evolve a horn, if you want to evolve a bigger body or different fins, and then you're supposed to like evolve kind of like depending on what level you're in. You The best way to play the game would be to evolve in a way that kind of suits that level. Like the first level, you have to fight this giant fish thing at the end, so you need to evolve this really strong horn so you can charge into it. And then there's like another level where there's like lava spitting everywhere, so you want to evolve a big tail so that you can get through the level really quickly and avoid all the lava and stuff like that. Um, I feel like in practice, it's pretty easy to just evolve to the max form pretty quick and then just fly through the game.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah, if you haven't heard of it, it's one of those Super Nintendo gems. Pretty short too. I kind of I say I'm playing it. It's been months to play through this, like probably 10-hour game, but here and there, a little bit of that too.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking at. It sounds like it was an inspiration for Spore a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just looking at it on the Wikipedia page. It looks kind of interesting. It's got a not the best score in the world for reception.
That's funny. I growing up, I just thought it was the coolest thing, and I still think if you read like a little blurb about the game, I don't know. I think that's a really cool idea. Like I don't really see that too often. It seems like something that's been tried a few times and just never maybe never done perfectly super well and kind of caught on into this big popular game. But yeah, I don't know. I often find actually when I play Super Nintendo games, I can like sit down with a notepad and list out ways that you could make like a new version of this game that was like would be like way cooler or something.
Mm.
You probably recall I was really excited about King Arthur's World back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
King Arthur's Gold.
World. Gold is the. I mean, I guess someone else was excited about King Arthur's World too, and then
Right.
Gold was yeah, kind of like what somebody was working on. I wonder what happened to that. That seemed promising at the time. I haven't checked on it in forever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
King Arthur's Gold was released on Steam in November 2013 with a rating of 9 out of 10.
Hey, and then we never heard from it again. So,
Yeah, well.
how about you?
I've been playing a little bit. Um,
You definitely have more of a. I mean, I used to do this, but like here's the next 10 games I'll play. This one, then this one, then this one. Or at
yeah.
least I feel that way. Whereas I'm
Well,
always like, well, I have 20 minutes now. What am I going to play? La la la.
I mean, yeah, I don't tend to just jump into short games. Like, I know that's kind of like a thing is like you've got a one of those emulator carts that has a ton of games on it on your NES, and you like to just like jump into all these little arcade style things that only take a few minutes. Uh, but I've never really been into that. Most of the stuff that I play is like a minimum of 10 hours long. And I've just
Yeah.
got I've got literally hundreds of games that I've bought over the years and have never even played. So I try to give it some sort of a priority list of like what will I jump into next, and hopefully it's got some sort of variety to it, so it's not like I'm just jumping constantly from JRPG to JRPG or something. Like
hmm
it's like a palate cleanse every single time.
I totally get it. Like I said, I used to be exactly like that. I've been really trying to focus on never being unhappy during my like my precious
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
time, and I find like 10-hour games. I shouldn't say unhappy. I, I want to be maximally entertained, I guess. And
yeah.
across the course of a 10-hour game, I just consistently, or 10-hour plus, 20, 40, 100, whatever. I just tend to consistently find that there's like all this downtime and it just drives me nuts. I mean, we've had this conversation, I think, on like Messenger or whatever a million times, but
Yeah.
just, man, I don't know. I could name drop various games, but generally, when it starts to get to be a longer game, probably like half of that time, I just feel very not not thrilled to be playing, and that's something I've
Yeah.
finally gotten a strong distaste for these days.
Yeah, I mean when I'm playing I will often um regulate my play style depending on my engagement. Like I just played through Ghost of
Mm,
Tsushima and I
mm,
put 59.5 hours into that, and
mm,
I platinumed it, which means like I got like all the trophies. And that's the first game I've ever done that with. Like
mm,
I thoroughly enjoyed playing that game.
mm.
Whereas I also attempted to play Bloodborne, and I put an hour into that, and I hated it, and I never touched it again.
I guess an hour is enough to get that that taste. That's certainly like I feel like that threshold for me has dropped a lot lately. Like if I was excited about a game 10 years ago, I would probably put I don't know, I 5 hours in. If it was like a miserable 5 hours, I might finally be like, okay, I'm gonna stop. Now it's like after 20 minutes, if it doesn't grab me, I'm like, okay, I'm just never ever gonna play this.
I
I
mean,
say that.
I just have so many games that I'm excited to play that
Uh-huh.
if it's not gonna grip me, then I'm not gonna waste my time.
hmm
Um, and it's there's happy mediums with that too. Like I've played Uncharted 4 and I loved that game, but I didn't go out of my way to find every little thing in it. I just played through it. And that's typically how I play stuff is I don't go searching for all the little secrets and try to 100% it. I just enjoy my time
hmm
and see where that takes me. Bloodborne, I just did not enjoy that hour at all.
I guess like when you're describing having all these games and they're 10 hours each and you just if you don't play them they'll just sit there or whatever. I mean, that's kind of obviously I'm kind of in the same boat and I just find playing short games
Hmm.
is my weird solution to that, I guess, because you play a short game, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one, right? I always start to get that feeling when I'm playing like some hour long game, or sorry, some like 100-hour game, where it's like, I have all these other games. I mean, again, if I'm playing a 100-hour game and I love it, every second of it, sure, but that
Yeah.
that whole downtime feeling, like once that kind of kicks in, I'm just like, oh, why am I playing this when I have all these other games? I find with shorter games, I never really get there. Like even, I mean, Cyber Shadow, we both played at the same time recently, and
Hmm.
that was like what 11 hours, right? Like that felt pretty okay, like a good
Nine,
length.
yeah, 9 hours for me.
Sure, 10, I think for me, or 10 and a half,
Yeah,
but like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if that was 20 hours, I might have kind of really started to time out pretty quick
Yeah,
in that second half, I think.
yeah. I feel like that was kind of a perfect length.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I tend to enjoy continuity. Like, I prefer watching a TV series to watching a film. I prefer reading a novel to reading a comic book. Like, I mean, I guess that's kind of backwards when I say the comic books because usually those are like a story that unfolds over like several issues. But I enjoy something that I can play for an hour and then come back to, and it's like the same experience but new each time. Whereas like if I'm doing something like I don't know Dig Dug or Pac Man, uh, I feel like the day to day experience is not going to be different enough to warrant revisiting.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, the the examples are like I think definitely prove your point. I guess for me it's like if I was to step out of video games, I guess like if you loved chess, like
Yeah,
depends on what kind of chess player you are or what level of interest you have. But I mean, for some people, chess is chess. You sit down, it's the same game. You're bored of it already, whatever. But like
yeah,
people who like chess, it's like it's the same, but it's not because like the rule set is the same, but the unfolding is the exciting part.
yeah,
Those are the
yeah.
games I like. Yeah, where it's like the continuity thing I get, and I like that too. But like even like if we go all the way back to older games, kind of like I don't know, like I think anyway, probably if I was to go and really think hard about the games that stood out to me, it would be more like those kind of games.
Mm.
Generally, I guess. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even though, even
I
like, yeah, say Gunpoint is probably a short game. I don't actually know how long it is, but it's like a sequence of puzzly levels. um, you kind of get that continuity thing you're describing. It's just not.
that
It's
one
just not 50 hours.
yeah, that one took me 3 hours.
Three, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pretty short. I think it's like 20 levels or something.
Yeah, it was fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair, if I am revisiting a game that's a short thing, like a Smash Bros or something, there's something to be said for that type of game where it's like about building mastery of it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I've just got a big backlog. So what I have been playing right now is I finally, after like 3 years or something, changed the strings on my guitar. so I finally picked up Rocksmith 2014,
Oh, okay.
and I'm trying to do that a little bit. But it's been so long since I've played guitar that I got to rebuild calluses and stuff. So
Wow.
I'm kind of dabbling in that. After our PlayStation 2 discussion, I felt amped up to finally get around to playing Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, wow.
I bought that for $20 used at Blockbuster in 2009,
Impressive.
so I'm finally playing it for the first time.
And you, I know you track all these things. You should account for inflation and use that
Yeah,
number when you figure out if it was worth it to you.
yeah. I mean, so the sad thing is that so I had my PlayStation 2 that I bought in high school,
Mhm.
and I loved it. I played it quite a bit, like Metal Gear games, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasies, etc. And then after I graduated college, the disk drive I think finally gave out on it, and it just didn't work anymore. Like I used to use it for DVDs and stuff too. It got a fair amount of use.
Mhm.
So Andrea, my wife, girlfriend at the time, she felt sympathy that my PlayStation 2 was gone, and I don't think I had a PlayStation 3 at the time. So she replaced that for me for Christmas. She got one of the PS Slims,
Mhm.
and at the time, I had finished every game that I owned, so I didn't really feel an urgency to play it. Eventually, I then bought like Dirge of Cerberus used, uh, but for whatever reason, I didn't play it at the time. So I just didn't play that PlayStation 2 like at all until maybe 2 years ago. Uh, and so then I decided I was going to play Dirge of Cerberus, but I wanted to be able to stream it, and I had no way of being able to do that. So I bought some sort of device that I could plug in my component cables, and it just wouldn't work. And it turned out it wasn't the PlayStation 2; it was this device. Like I tried it with some other stuff, and that device just didn't work. And so I eventually had to get a refund on it. And it turned out about 6 months later or so, I realized I hadn't turned off the PlayStation 2.
What?
I had it plugged into this thing and then just never turned it off. And it just sat there like under some like books or something
What?
for 6 months.
Is it okay?
Well, I turned it off and never, I didn't plug it into my TV to see if it was working at the time. So I finally decided last week, all right, I'm finally going to get around to playing this game. So I bought another little device so that I could plug the composite cables into the HDMI port and play that on my PC. And no, it does not work. The PlayStation 2, it doesn't work. Doesn't work on my TV. Doesn't work on my computer. I'm able to turn it on. There's power and there's electricity going through those cables because like the device that it's plugging into like lights up as though
Uh,
it's
does the
doing
disc
something.
spin?
Yeah, the disc spins, but it does not actually send any sort of video or audio out. If I'm using either composite or component cables.
I,
So
w- I wonder if it ever worked.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I back when I first got it, I did turn it on. It did work.
Hmm.
I just never played a game for like more than the 10 minutes or so that it took to just make sure it worked.
That
But
is
but
the
that
weirdest. I don't know if I've ever heard of someone doing that.
for what, buying a console and never using it, or
Oh well, I've done that myself. I can. I mean, so I have two power bars, and they're both big, fancy, expensive things. And one is for like retro or whatever old things, and one is for newer things. Old in this case goes up to like definitely PlayStation 2. Um,
you have a 3DO, right?
I have a 3DO, yes. But the power bar that is for the older things, there's like this option to have it all be controlled by one thing. Like there's one plug called the master plug, and
Yeah,
it automatically shuts everything off when that plug is off.
yeah,
And I plug the TV into that. So every time the TV is off, all systems power is cut to all systems. The main reason is like those old um, power supplies that
yeah.
like the Super Nintendo had, like those big fat things.
They
When
just
they're plugged in
get
and they get
warm.
old, yeah, you can kind of hear them going like, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, so it cuts all that and it protects the systems and stuff. And so, so a PlayStation 2 being on for 6 months is kind of a amusing problem I think I avoided with my super cool setup here.
yeah. Well, this was completely dumb. But anyway, I discovered that there's an emulator called PC SX2.
Hmm. And it
And
plays
so
the real disc, right?
it plays the real discs
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm able to take that DVD and slot it into my computer
And you can stream it.
and I can stream it. So I'm doing that. It took a little while to get it set up just cuz like you have to, get your scan lines and everything set up the way you like
Uh-huh.
it, and I had to configure my PS5 controller do to be recognized by it and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm about halfway through that game, and it holds up a lot better than I was expecting it to.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like if I'd played that back when it was actually released, it would have been like a hot experience.
But it's not quite a hot experience now.
There's some failures to it. Like I don't know how many like first person shooter type games there were on the PS2. Certainly, I don't think there were any others made by Square Enix.
Hmm.
So there's a little bit of stuff in it that is weird by today's standards. Like they put the shooting button, for example, on what I deem to be the wrong shoulder button. But they give you customizable controls, so I can make it feel comfortable. But then apparently they didn't. When they built the Japanese game, they gave you a jump, and it wasn't really enough to let you go anywhere. Like there was a crate here and there, and like a little bit of platforming that you had to do, but it was more of like a strategy shooting game than it was like a platforming game.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, maybe people were finding it hard to pull off some of those jumps or something. They decided to give you a double jump in North America.
I hate it when they change the game for localization reasons. Like it's not just
Well,
translation, but like an actual game change.
well, it's nice. It makes it so that you never have to worry about the jumps. Like you're not jumping across pits to your death. It's just like navigating part of
Hmm.
the level and stuff. So it
Sure.
feels comfortable where you can do it.
Hmm.
But they weren't accounting for a double jump when they built the game, and so
Hmm.
there's parts of the game that they, for whatever reason, put invisible walls. And with
Like
the
in the
double
sky.
jump, yeah, like with the, well, like there's like you're in a building and there's a second floor, and
Hmm.
then there's crates, so it looks as though with your double jump you should be able to get on those crates and then double jump to the next floor, but you
Hmm.
can't because there's an invisible wall around the balcony.
Sounds
So
sweet.
so like there was one level in particular where I guess you're supposed to crawl under like a half open garage door, and then there's like a little secret thing that they never explain what the little secret thing is, but there's some of them hidden in every level and you can shoot them.
Mm.
So I did that, but then there's like enemies surrounding you from four sides and they just spawn infinitely, and they're up like a few feet above you, so it feels as though I should be able to jump up to those platforms and I'm supposed to go somewhere, and I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't get up there. So eventually I just had to like crawl back out through the door and realize that that was just like a little secret area that that's not the path. But because of that double jump, it felt like that's where I was supposed to go, and I was just like using up all of my ammo, which you run out of.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I mean, I have no idea what their time budget is, but they're willing to go in and add the double jump, but not then go and kind of touch up the places where having it could be a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that sort of thing can be tricky as a developer too, because it's like you know that that's not the path, so you don't necessarily think to playtest as though you don't know where to go.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know. I just get grumpy when
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so I've been playing that. It's a better game than I was expecting.
Hmm.
It's still fun, even though it's got a couple of weird little things with it like that. And
Yeah.
then with my kid, I'm playing through Paper Mario: The Origami King.
Paper Mario is another game that it's kind of like Untitled Goose Game for me, where I've just played it so much. I just burned out on it so hard,
I, kn-
so hard. And this
I
is like the first and the second one, and then I never played any more in the series. So,
this is the first Paper Mario I've played.
are you liking it?
Yeah, it's fun. It's quite story heavy, and
Mm,
I'm like constantly impressed with my kid because he only turned 6 in December,
hmm.
um, and he's able to read almost everything in it
Yeah,
now. Like back in December, he wouldn't have been able to read this much, but he's just like in such a short time, he's really exploded with his abilities. So it's like I read almost everything to him, but then every now and then I'll get tuned out for whatever reason, and he starts reading the rest on his own.
yeah.
Um,
It's crazy how that goes. I have similar experiences. Uh, I can definitely relate. So, I'm impressed with the tolerance for going through. I guess actually Paper Mario is probably maybe a good balance of like enough, visual stimulation and
mm.
text to keep a kid interested. Like it's not just text. Um,
And almost all the text that there is like puns and jokes and stuff too. So
yeah,
it's really good for him. He's enjoying it a lot.
yeah, cool, cool. Yeah, it was the first Paper Mario. That was the one that I actually played um, quite enthusiastically, I guess. And that was a good game. Like I did like it. It's it's been like 20 years or something, so I don't really know where the series has gone.
I don't think there's any continuity to them, or
Oh,
at least between this and the previous ones.
if you're talking about story, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking of
yeah,
like how like the game itself has developed, I guess.
right, right.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to
Um,
say really quick, actually, just
mhm.
before we get too far away from it, like when you were talking about PlayStation 2,
Yeah,
I actually have a PC engine. It's the Turbo Duo R with the disc and everything,
right.
and I set it up to play Snatcher, which is uh,
Kojima.
yeah, yeah. I was trying to remember his name. It's one of his games. I mean, I think I've talked about it before, and it works, and it's great and everything. And the PC Engine one it's not the original, but it's kind of the definitive version with like everything in it and everything. Um, but the way the system works, it's really weird. I actually, I have to admit, I have an electronics background. I still don't even really know, but I guess it's like you can say it has a save function, and you save to the system, and the mechanism for saving is some sort of, I don't know, something powered by like one really big capacitor.
Right.
And so it's like already pretty sketchy, right? Like it's this ancient system with some weird onboard saving system. And so the first few times I played it, it didn't save anything, and then it kind of started to save. And I was reading, and I guess like if you haven't used the system a long time, you're supposed to just kind of play it a bit and let it charge up its capacitor and then save.
Yeah.
And so I'm super like eyebrow raised about it if it's actually going to hold through an entire play session. And so when you were saying you were just emulating your PlayStation 2 with the actual disc, I was thinking of doing that with Snatcher because I just don't trust it. I don't want to like play. I mean, I was just going on about long games. I don't want to play through this like 15-hour game and then lose everything 8 hours in because then I know I will never finish it. So I might.
It's disappointing taking like this middle range. I don't know anything that involves batteries and stuff. It's a hit and miss experience this many years after the fact.
Yep.
I remember being super disappointed maybe 2 years ago. We had a Christmas party at work, and I was like, okay, I bet this party's going to be lame. I'm going to take my GameCube and we're going to play Smash Bros. And so I did.
Sounds good to me.
And it was the first time I'd hooked everything up. Of course, the last time I'd used it, everything worked fine, but I hooked everything up and my memory card was dead. So we've got Smash Bros. In its default state with no working memory card, um, which was entertaining for the night, but it was also like super disappointing for me that like I had a perfectly unlocked game that is no longer unlocked. And I don't know, it's kind of the same with Dirge of Cerberus there, where it's just like the PlayStation 2 itself isn't working anymore, and it's like
Hmm.
I think it's a shame where th- there's a lot of games that you can only experience on the one system. Like like if you want to play Dirge of Cerberus, it's only on PlayStation 2.
Hmm. Hmm. But what about
Uh,
games? Okay, if you go
and
back,
and like
go ahead.
PlayStation 3, 4 and 5, you can't play PlayStation 2 games on them, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
Which
you're
which is which is kind of what I really like about what we were intending on talking about today is the Game Boy Advance because it had a lot of it had reverse backwards compatibility where you could play original Game Boy games on it, right?
Game Boy Advance was a wonderful system. I loved the Game Boy Advance. And yes, I mean, you could go all the way back. It was like I love the color palettes and stuff, maybe not the lighting situation so much, but yeah, definitely a selling point of the Game Boy line in general, I would say.
Yeah, like so I honestly I didn't have a Game Boy Advance. But I had two other ways of playing Game Boy Advance games. One was the Game Boy Player for
Yeah.
which attached onto the GameCube,
Hmm.
and then my DS Lite as well was
Hmm.
also able to play that stuff. So I don't know. I and then like not only that, like not only could you play old Game Boy games on it, but they did a pretty good job on the GBA of re-releasing old Nintendo games like
Yeah,
Zelda
that was a
games and
thing.
Castlevania and stuff.
Yeah, that was really a thing. That was interesting. I don't know. I remember when the Game Boy Advance came out. It was right when I think I touched on this last time, I guess, but like I feel like nowadays in Jesus 2021 or whatever, um, there's you can get a variety. Like there's just so many different whatever independent games out there and whatever. You can basically find anything to tickle your fancy. But kind of in the early 2000s era, that kind of Super Nintendo-ish game was really out, and everyone was doing like the 3D thing, and you
Mm.
just kind of didn't really see that coming out with new games and stuff. And GBA kind of uh, satisfied that urge for me to go and find that kind of game. I guess like it just felt like Super Nintendo plus plus, right?
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And then they also, I think they actually released a bunch of Super Nintendo games on it. But you know, aside from that, like just the library was pretty uh, large in the end. I mean, it's just a successful system. Like Nintendo's portable lines were always successful, of course, but uh, yeah, I don't know. GBA was like it kind of filled that spot for me. So
Yeah, it was
yeah.
well, I mean, I even today still sometimes consider buying one
Mm,
because like one of the games that I got for GameCube was Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
yep.
And in order to play multiplayer, you gotta have a GBA.
I was gonna say there's a game that is very hard to actually go back and play.
Yeah.
Hardware necessity and even just having friends.
Well, I would, yeah, especially the last one. Um, I mean, I was really disappointed because they just re-released or remade Crystal Chronicles for Switch,
Yep.
and I was like, okay, I feel bad that I bought this game more than a decade ago and have never played it, but now's my chance. I've got a kid. I'm gonna play this multiplayer with him, and I guess you can't do local multiplayer. Like you
You
like,
need the GBAs, right?
well, no, with the Switch, I mean,
Oh,
like
oh, really?
yeah, like you can only do online multiplayer. So anyone who's playing it needs a Switch
Hmm.
and an online account.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to be playing this with my kid. I guess I'll just play the one on my GameCube. And now I just every now and then wistfully look at eBay debating buying a GBA SP.
um, I don't know if I'm actually trying to think. Like, you could probably almost buy a second Switch for the cost of one. I mean, it depends. I guess there's all kinds of them. I of course have uh, kind of that same flash cart setup with the GBA.
Oh wow,
And
you're right. They are actually the same cost as a Switch.
yeah, yeah. And if you want like a good one, like I bought this one. I'm crazy, of course. I'm probably not a good example for people, but I bought the one with like the special color set up. It was like a custom build thing, and then it was the backlight model,
Yeah,
like the really good backlight model.
yeah.
I forget how much it cost, but it wasn't cheap. So, and also, I actually don't remember. Do you need like is it enough to have one? I thought each player needed the GPA.
Each player needs one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so you would need two then.
and apparently you can't get like the best ending unless you're playing 4 player. So
So you would need four and the cables. You'd need those connection cable things.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually found a bag of them at Value Village one year, and so I bought it. So I have I think three of them, which I was like, well, this could
So
come
there
in
you go.
handy
Now,
someday. Yeah.
so now you can play it,
Well, I don't have a. I might.
friends.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have all the pieces. Definitely not the friends part. Um, I don't think I have the game. I remember one of our other colleagues had the game and like enough, whatever, everything to play it. But nowadays, I think I'd have to pick some more stuff up.
Yeah, it's a disappointing world to own a game that much time and not be able to play it. I think I bought that when I was in my second year of college. Um,
Sounds right. Yeah.
and my roommate at the time, we played a lot of games together. Like we were trying to work through Battletoads and Double Dragon and a whole bunch of stuff, and so it felt like it was a perfect time to buy it. And then I bought that, and he had a GBA, but then we just got so busy with projects that we didn't play it, and then that's
Life
the story.
happened. Yeah. Nice, great, cool story. Now I know what that's like. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's like I don't even. I just assume that's going to happen and don't get too excited about these things.
What was weird about the system though is that like I said, I didn't have the actual GBA. I at that point, any GBA games I was playing, I would play on my Game Boy Player on the GameCube,
Yep.
and so I picked up. eBay was great back then. Um, I picked up like Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, Sword of Mana, uh, all on eBay for like I don't know $2 or $3 per game
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, come on. There's no way these were pirated copies, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that thought didn't occur to me at the time, but that's exactly what they were. They were pirated.
It didn't occur. If I get if I bought a GBA game for $1 at any point across its entire history, I would have assumed it was
I mean,
pirated.
at that point, I eBay was still very largely like sell your used shit that you don't want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had sold my high school calculator, for example, on eBay.
Weird.
So yeah, I guess those TI-83 pluses are a commodity.
I think I
Um,
still have mine. I should look into the eBay option. Anyway, go ahead.
but yeah, so like I bought these and I played them fine on my Game Boy Player, and I remember playing through Sword of Mana on it, and I got like maybe halfway through the game or something,
Mm-hmm.
and because that was I had a roommate and we only had the one TV. He and his girlfriend probably wanted to watch a movie or something, and so he offered to let me use his Game Boy Advance so I could play that. And
You
I
got the screen.
the game erased
Oh man.
once I put it in the. I mean, it was still playable, but the save data was erased by the GBA. It seemed to not enjoy the pirated games very much.
Wow. So there's a lesson here, I
So
think.
yeah, don't use official
Yeah.
hardware.
Use the Game Boy player. Wow, that's funny.
So that was I never played through that game again. I was so
Yep.
gutted that I lost all that progress that I just never did it again.
Yep.
But I discovered that all of those pirated games that I owned, if I played them on the Game Boy Advance, it erased the save data. If I played them on the Game Boy Player, they worked just fine.
I bet Nintendo probably knew up front that sales of the Game Boy player wouldn't be enough that it warranted any extra work in anti-piracy measures for that specific piece of hardware.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I'm curious what exactly they did behind the scenes to do that, whether it was intentional or not. But
Yeah,
um,
it might have
so
been.
so that
Yeah,
was disappointing.
I wonder. I mean, it's probably like some voltage zap or something, and maybe they just weren't capable of doing that through the expansion port on the GameCube
Yeah,
or something. Yeah, that's weird. Huh. While we're on the topic of GBA, one thing that stands out to me about that system, I feel like it was the last, maybe just for me anyway, in my experience, it was the last system that like really had just like beautiful game packaging. Like I still have a lot of my game packaging from GBA, and it's just beautiful. Like awesome boxes, awesome manuals. The cartridges themselves have, I mean, they're tiny, but they still have like
yeah,
pretty decent cover art on them.
yeah,
Especially a lot of the Japanese releases. You called out the Secret of Mana game. Like that game had really great packaging. I had like a bunch of like Gundam games with really good packaging. I
yeah,
feel like that's when the world started to really transition away from like nice packaging, kind of that era, and go to like no packaging. I don't know. Like DS to me had awful packaging, those awful plastic cases. And
yeah.
then yeah, ever since Nintendo, like look at Switch, it's not really any packaging, right? It's like that the same terrible plastic
I'm
cases
angry. I'm angry at the Switch games. Like
because the
I,
packaging sucks.
yeah, it's
Lost
well,
missed opportunity.
it's such a waste of packaging. It's like
Well,
this tiny little thing that's like half the size of my thumb,
and this
and then
big,
it's got this giant card plastic box for it with like no booklet at all. I'm like, if you're gonna give me something this big, give me some artwork and stuff to flip through, man. Like,
yeah, I hate that. I mean, I don't know. We're in a world where people are more environmentally conscious. Like generally having no packaging. Like I don't know, like say Steam releases. I get it.
yeah,
Packaging everywhere. Sure, I totally get it. But like exactly right. If you're gonna give us packaging anyway, give us something awesome, right? Like
yeah,
it's kind of the worst of each possible world if you just give us a bunch of junk, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so I mean, I've got my bookshelf where I keep all my game cases, but now I'm because I went to visit my parents for a few months. We decided to take all our Switch games with us so that
Hmm.
my kid could have something to do. So I bought like a little, um, I don't know, case book, whatever you want to call it, off Amazon that holds, I think, 18 games.
Just like the little cartridges, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and so now we keep all of our games in that little thing that's like the size of my hand.
Okay.
Um, and now we've just got like a ton of empty cases on my shelf with
Yeah.
like no books or anything to even make it worthwhile to ever go back to those. It's annoying. That
Yeah.
was actually one thing that I thought cool with the Nintendo DS. Um, because I had bought so many pirated games for the GBA,
Hmm.
when the DS games came out, for whatever reason, they decided to add space in each of those cases to hold GBA games.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yep. Yep.
So I've got like a spreadsheet somewhere that tells me which DS games to open up to find my GBA games.
Wow. That's impressive. That's impressive. I think all my GBA games are in like some big plastic box somewhere. I don't know. I have the flash card, right? So I don't really need to go use them, but there's definitely
Yeah.
enough there. Yeah.
So what were your top GBA games?
I thought about it and I actually didn't list a ton, which is funny because I mean I like the system overall. Like I really like the system. And I actually use the system I have, like the fancy GBA with the next backlight to play. Like that's also my Game Boy game player and my Game Boy Color player. And so I have a lot of really good memories with it playing across
Mm.
those three systems. Um, the I just put one game, which was Mario versus Donkey Kong. And I don't know if you've played it.
No.
No, it's definitely not your kind of game from what I read based on discussions. But it's very much it's not like an RPG or something. It's more like a I guess like puzzle platformer thing. But to me, that series I call it a series. Like I think it was the original Game Boy, or was it Color? I think it was the original Game Boy had uh, just Donkey Kong. It was called, and it wasn't the Donkey Kong everyone knows with
Right.
the dun, 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 dun. It was this uh, like kind of the same thing, I guess, puzzle platformer where you were Mario and you had to like get through these crazy levels and do crazy things, and it was a very puzzly, interesting game. A lot of fun, and this is, I guess, a spiritual. What do they call them? It's not really a
Successor.
sequel, but yeah, it's like the successor to that in a way. And it was on GBA, and it was just really really fun. It was a fun little game. It's kind of like, I wouldn't quite call it a lost art, but certainly they're not as on vogue as they were at one point. But it's just this. Uh, I mean, imagine Donkey Kong, like the Donkey Kong you do know, and where you like made a whole sequence of levels that are more puzzly and have a whole bunch of stuff going on, and are just really genuinely fun. Uh, I don't even know how to describe it really. Like you'd kind of have to play it to feel the real enjoyment out of it. That's the game that stands out to me on the system. Like I definitely played through, the Final Fantasy re-releases and FFTA. I don't know if you played that one.
Which one?
The Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I tried to block that out of my memory.
you know, I I don't hate that game. It went nowhere. Like after the original Final Fantasy Tactics was such an enjoyable experience, to play that one, it just felt like such a wasted experience. I- like it looked beautiful and it played well, and nothing happened. It was just such a
I've
weird thing.
I've looked back at it since, because it has some nice pixel art in it
It
as
does.
for like the environments,
Mhm.
but I hated that game so much. I was so disappointed by it.
Yeah.
I loved the original Final Fantasy Tactics
Yep.
on PlayStation.
Yep.
I absolutely loved it. It was like this really mature story about like religion and demons and betrayal and politics and stuff, and it had like this really broken job system and stuff that really was a great power fantasy where you could just build up ninjas that could like break down anything.
Why
like
isn't that every Final Fantasy? But anyway.
I guess, but it was like this great power fantasy with an awesome story, and the music in it was amazing.
Yeah, fantastic game.
And Final Fantasy Tactics Advance was just such a disappointment to me because the story was so immature
Yep.
and kiddie, and like I didn't want to play as a 9-year-old kid in the never-ending story
Yeah, I mean,
with judges telling me how I'm supposed to play.
it was definitely intentional. I almost
I
think,
felt
yeah,
I felt like the music, I like none
yeah,
of it stood out to me.
yep, yep. Totally hear you. I think I have a bigger tolerance a little bit for that. I mean, I know you're like, if the
I'm
story,
really into flavor.
yeah, I mean, I want that to be good, right? I'm just saying, like, if that is bad, or in this case, really, really bad, I'm still like, I don't just tune out of the game right away. But I think there's enough things wrong with that game, or like enough wasted opportunity that it's just like, oh man, it was definitely frustrating. Um, there's a sequel which I don't know enough about. I think I actually own it, but I don't know if it's the same like kids throwing snowballs at each other type thing, or if it's a little more mature. And it might even be for DS. I should go check that out. I don't know.
I remember hearing about it and just not picking it up. Yeah, it is for DS.
Yeah, they missed their
Grimo-
chance.
Grimoire of the Rift.
Oh, sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I also really loved. So I never played the Vagrant story, so I don't know the whole beginning of Evilus,
hmm
and how that's evolved over the years. But for me, Final Fantasy Tactics, like Evilus, was a great world as well.
hmm
Um, and it's been really weird seeing that being like twisted around in the Tactics Advance and in Final Fantasy 12. Um, I've never understood this fascination with like the bunny girls and the lizard men and stuff that they were really pushing for this world.
Like in the subsequent games, you mean, or in the original too?
Well, I mean, in Tactics, in Final Fantasy Tactics, I don't think there were any bunny ladies.
I don't remember, to be honest. It's like
But
such a
but
common
they
stupid drop in all these older Japanese games. But yeah, sure.
yeah, but they had it in Tactics Advance and they had it in Final Fantasy 12, and it just like felt weird to me that they're just like, I don't know, throwing these gimmicks into the world.
Hmm. You like the pure version from the original?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when the original came out, I was obsessed with it and like put, I don't know, all these hours in, and I read through the entire encyclopedia that the game basically has and did every single job and did every single thing and whatever. Um, and so I totally like I get it actually. I liked the world a lot. I liked the music a lot. Everything about the game was super fun, and I definitely felt none of that for Tactics Advance. I did finish it. I thought, it was okay.
I
I didn't
finished it
hate on it.
too.
Yeah. I think there was like I remember it was weird at the end because I there was like a few levels left and I went into one of the levels, one of the stages, and I didn't realize it was the last one. And I beat it and the game ended and I was like, oh, and pulled it out and never played it again. Like you know what I mean? Like it's very different
I
than Final Fantasy Tactics where it was like I have to do everything. Wow.
I feel like I remember you expressing anger at the time that you were playing it because you were kind of trying to do all the side quests, and there was like an item that you sold or threw or got rid of somehow, and you couldn't do one of the side quests without that item.
Sounds like it might have happened. I don't really remember. I was like ready to be done with the game
Yeah.
when I was done with it, and so I definitely was probably starting to get frustrated.
Um, yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one. Um, Final Fantasy IV, on the other hand, on Game Boy Advance, um, Final Fantasy IV was always one of my favorite games. Like when I played it, Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo,
Hmm.
it was like it was amazing. I loved it so much at the time, and I think Advance is my favorite version of the game.
Oh, interesting. I don't
It's
even.
it's
What's different? I don't
So
remember.
they essentially, like when they made it for the Super Nintendo, they basically like dumbed down the
They
Japanese version
they gutted
because
it, yeah, and censored it.
because we're too stupid to be able to play with all those extra options and stuff. Um, so it was simplified quite a bit, and so this version reintroduces all that stuff. Like you're able to use like your dark magic or whatever as
Hmm.
a dark knight, and story wise, I seem to recall it's pretty much identical up until you get to the end of the game.
Hmm.
And then they've added like a whole extra dungeon at the end of the game,
Hmm.
which gives like extra backstory on like how were you adopted into the kingdom of Baron, and how, like, what was everyone's backstory basically.
Didn't they
And
release a whole game to that for number four? Or no, those were the after years or
yeah,
whatever. Never mind.
they did a sequel to it which I never played. It's apparently really bad.
Yeah,
There's like a
yeah.
lot of revisiting the same dungeon over and over.
God, every version of it that's been released have made my eyes bleed visually, so I haven't been motivated to play it either. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, it looks like a mobile game or something.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten around to playing Six Advance, but I hear it's kind of the same way, where it's like, the classic game all the way through, but then with a whole bunch of extra stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Final Fantasy IV Advance, to me, that's the version right there. That if you're ever gonna play that game, that's the one you should play.
Interesting. I mean, I played the Super Nintendo not gutted one, and so for
Mm.
me, it feels like the difference would be the stuff at the end. My quick experience with stuff at the end. I don't know if you've. I think you've never played the original Link's Awakening, right? I know you played the remake. The color one, the what is it? DX, I guess. Link's Awakening DX. I played through that fairly recently, and I remember when it came out, one of the selling points was this extra dungeon at the very end.
Yeah.
Or it's not it's close to the end. It's like kind of hidden, and it wasn't like a selling point for me. I just felt like playing the game again, so I decided to play the color one because it's the same game just in color now. and I liked
Yeah.
it overall. It's just a colorized version of the same game, but this extra dungeon is the biggest tease ever. I mean, it was over in like 3 minutes, and it's like it just uses the fact that it's a color game to add this like new gimmick that uses colors.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that was the extra dungeon. Like it was as if it was just like a little hidden cave in the original game or something. Like that was definitely one of the biggest disappointments. I mean, not that I was like actively really looking forward to it, but
Yeah.
if I had been, I would have been shocked with how little new content there was. There was maybe like 6 screens, and you know what like
Yeah.
Zelda game dungeons are like with the old ones with their single screens, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so. Yeah, I don't know. I hear you describe that as a bonus for FF4, and I immediately kind
Well,
of get a
I
knee
think it
jerk.
was well done.
Yeah, no, I believe you. I'm just saying. For me, it's like I've done
Um,
those before.
I mean, my other probably favorite game that was on that system was Metroid Zero Mission,
Mm,
which,
great game. Yeah.
like, I think that, I mean, it's a remake of the original Metroid, but it's also like it handles differently all throughout, and it's updated graphics and everything. Like it's, I guess that's kind of like the equivalent of the Final Fantasy VII remake, where it's like they redid it. They didn't just port it.
Yep.
Um, but that's kind of the same way too, where like they throw in a whole bunch of extra stuff.
Sorry, daughter just woke up. As you can hear all the shuffling noises.
Yeah,
Um, um, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of like even the games you've listed as like the ones you remember really well in the system. It's like that's what Game Boy Advance was really good at, right? Like these
yeah,
kind of Super Nintendo style RPGs and platformers and stuff. Even like Mario versus Donkey Kong was very, I think they could have pulled that off on Super Nintendo.
I feel like it was a nostalgia machine.
It was. That's yeah. It's kind of I'm dancing around that point, but like at the time, it felt like oh, I missed this. Like for me, very
Yeah,
much. And the games that were really high quality, it was just like it was great. It was a great experience.
it was. I feel like it was a better nostalgia machine than those NES classic minis that came out,
Well, I
because
think
it was like,
because it was
I
new,
mean,
it was that
it was
feeling
new.
again. Yeah.
Like all this, yeah, the stuff that was on there, like you were able to play like the old Mario games and old Metroid games, and but everything was like kicked up a notch too.
Yep. Yep. And like even like not just the remakes, but like the new games that came out, they felt like that kind of game. But
Yeah.
like you say, they were kicked up a notch. So I'm slowly probably being pulled into a childcare situation. I'm glad we finally got to GBA.
Well, it took us 20 minutes or more, and then, but yeah, I love that system. It's so weird how much love I have for that, even though I didn't actually own it. I just owned like the Game Boy Player and the DS, and
Yep. Yep. Well, I
um,
mean, I I also have a lot of love for that system, even though I didn't even really play a ton of games on it. I
yeah,
mean, I shouldn't say that. I haven't finished a ton of games. Another quick call out is the Phoenix Wright series.
yeah,
Uh, uh, just really quick as we're I think wrapping up here.
yeah.
Um, it's probably quite uncharacteristic for me to like this kind of game because it's exactly that kind of thing I complain about infinitely, where it's like there's not really a game there, right? It's just like a bunch of kind of story clumped together and you press buttons to push it through. But like, I don't know. I liked the characters. I mean, they were hokey and stupid and whatever. And I like the music a lot. It's just a fun little experience. So I kind of timed out like what there's like 5 of them now. There's 3 on the GBA, but I like the first one a lot.
I got the trilogy on Switch,
Yeah,
so I've played through the first one,
yeah.
but I haven't made time for the other two.
2 I liked a lot less, and then I didn't play 3. But I liked the first one, and I did play through the second one. So
Yeah.
yeah, probably a lot of breathing noises. I think my daughter has a slight cold.
Okay. Well, I guess that wraps up the GBA. That was we'll I'm sure knock through future consoles at a faster rate, but I don't know.
Well, around the same time, what else did they have? Like Xbox. We'll probably talk about Xbox for 5 minutes. Really, right?
Xbox, I literally never played it. We should wrap up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go in a second here. All right. Well,
Yeah.
nice chatting. Always fun to hit the GBA days up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right.
Catch you later.
Till next time. Cheers, Armenia.